Welcome to Mindfully with Tumishe, the podcast that invites you to explore mental health with honesty, compassion, and openness. Each week, your host, Tumishe Oladapokuku, shares personal stories and stories from people like you. Together, we'll confront mental health myths and build a space where imperfection isn't feared but embraced. From self-esteem struggles to relational conflicts, we're here to discuss it all, with guidance from experts and real raw stories that inspire healing. It's time to live mindfully. It's time to be compassionate with ourselves and each other. Mindfully with Tumishe, new episodes every week, available wherever you listen to podcasts or at blackimages.com.
Hello, mindful partners. June, of course, was Men's Mental Health Month. And with that conversation with Oluwaseun Daudu, whom you know as Aki Ola, last week we officially bring season 7 of Mindfully with Tumishe to a close. When I stepped into this new phase, like starting season 7, I made myself a promise. I would approach healing and service less from the standpoint of telling people what healing should look like and more from the language each season of my own life is teaching me. Now, I know that sounds realistic because, after all, every form of media is trying to persuade us of something. The difference, I hope, is this. I am not asking you to borrow from my map. I am simply unfolding mine before you. If it helps you recognize a few landmarks on your own journey, wonderful. But the real goal is for you to find your own map and run with it. Before you say, Tumishe, I really don't have anything to heal from, I hate to break it to you. Dysfunction doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it wears expensive perfume, sometimes it looks like privilege, and sometimes it disguises itself so well that all it leaves you with is an existential question that you cannot quite answer. I recently heard someone recount his school days. By every standard, he had what many would call a privileged upbringing. He lacked nothing. His words, not mine. Until the day privilege stopped working. Suddenly, the relationships he thought he had could not carry him through the moment he needed them most. The very identity he had built around always being the helper became the same reason he struggled to ask for help. Listening to him, I realized something. No matter how beautiful your story of origin may be, it gives you a language your body speaks, a language your relationships inherit, and perhaps most importantly, a language you speak to yourself. And this self-language is the most interesting one because it can make or mar you. That internal dialogue fascinates me the most because nobody else hears it, yet it quietly influences almost everything you do. And since none of us can truly do life alone, That conversation matters. Do you remember the episode, What If Meaning Lives in How We Respond? That was the first episode of season 7. Link in the show notes. I told you that I wasn't returning with a placard to force mindfulness down anyone's throat. I was coming back with a crossing. And honestly, this crossing has felt like the journey of the Israelites through the Red Sea. Many people remember the miracle. Few, very few remember that the east wind blew all night. If you don't believe me, go and read Exodus 14:21. Personally, I wouldn't want to be there. I am terrified of large bodies of water. I can't swim. I always say that the day I can swim, then all the fears in my life would have disappeared. But I happen to enjoy thunderstorms. For some reason, thunderstorms make me sleep. But a strong east wind opening a sea? No. Thank you. Imagine hearing the cheers of the people who less than 12 hours earlier were your colonial masters. Imagine standing between two walls of water while every story you've ever believed about yourself tells you that you are still a slave. And then someone says, be still. Ha! No amount of be still and no would immediately calm me. It's easy for us to say the Israelites were, but maybe eventually I would look around and notice that my fellow travelers had settled enough to keep walking. Or are also looking at me, wondering how I was navigating things. You never know. Maybe I would remember the miracles that got us there. Maybe I would whisper to myself, just maybe, this impossible thing is possible. Because sometimes faith begins with borrowing courage from the people walking beside you. I will repeat that again. Sometimes faith begins with borrowing courage from the people walking beside you. Now, before we go further, let's check in with our buddies. Remember, I say sometimes the stories will settle when your body settles. So I invite you, if you're where you could close your eyes, you could close your eyes. If not, just take a deep breath, deep cleansing breath. In through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out. Let it go. Now, let's continue. The last 4 or 5 weeks have felt exactly like that crossing. And somewhere in the middle of it, or I caught myself saying the words of the Israelites. Were there no graves in Egypt? My Egypt? Bipolar affective disorder. Many of you already know that I live with bipolar 2, and in many ways, that reality shaped why I wrote Living Mindfully, A Journey to Being, why I started advocating for mental health, and why this podcast exists at all. The dream has always been simple, to be a bridge, to help demystify the language around mental health, to remind people that they are not alone, but healing. Healing has humbled me. It really is a journey. There are days when my whole moods are balanced and I think, today I feel wonderfully human. And then there are days when familiar voices invite me back to my Egypt, back to old narratives, back to conversations inside my own head that once produced creativity but also carried pain. Some nights I simply show up while the east wind keeps blowing. I wish I could explain the number of internal conversations I have every single day. Different situations, different people, different versions of me. One thing I realized very early in my life was that almost everything happened first in my head. So I became good at masking until masking stopped working. And perhaps that is why this entire series matters, because what if the voices that still dictate how you show up for yourself are not actually yours? What if they belong to the generations before you, to experiences that shaped you but no longer deserve to define you? You are, after all, an upgrade of stories you didn't even write. The work is not silencing every voice. No, that's not the work. The work is learning which one deserves the microphone. Over these last weeks, I learned the difference between suppressing something and healing it or healing from it. I tried all my coping mechanisms, the tools that had served me before, the ones me and my therapist painstakingly curated to fit me. They served me for a long time. But this time, some seemed to have failed. In hindsight, maybe they didn't fail at all. Maybe my mind and body were asking me to sit with something I had not fully acknowledged. One of the strongest messages I preach on this podcast is the importance of building your tribe. Ironically, during this time, I couldn't find mine. Not because they weren't there. I had my face, my greatest gift in this journey, but even Jesus had a close-knit tribe with 3 exceptionally close ones. You know, those ones that went with him to the garden? Yes, those ones that slept while he was praying. That was how I felt. Like Jesus and these 3 friends. No heresy intended. His 3 closest friends sleeping while he was fighting for his life. The key word here is felt. My friends did reach out. They tried out the tools I have empowered them with to help me. But my voice of origin was waning. And guess what? I allowed it. In hindsight, I think I allowed the voice space because I didn't want to Tunmishe through it and mask it out. I did not know if it was a right call, because that call took me to the darkest places I have not visited in as long as I didn't want to remember. The oldest voice inside me kept insisting that I was alone. That voice was loud, very loud. Loud enough that I believed it, loud enough that I withdrew. Looking back, I think I let it speak because I didn't want to rush to silences. I wanted to hear it fully, believing that maybe, just maybe once heard, it might finally lose its power over me. Oh, it took me to dark places, places I had no desire to revisit. And then, almost quietly, I picked up Brianna's Wist. When you are ready, this is how you heal. You know, one of those books I tell you that I buy just because of the title. So to remind myself I was on a journey. Again, the title, When You're Ready, this is how you heal. 2 pages in saying to myself, oh, I know these things with a huge eye roll. Then one line stopped me in my tracks. It said, our healed selves are not our flawless self. They are not immune to sadness, fear, or grief. They are not just controlled by those experiences any longer. It feels sadness when it needs to feel sad, fear when it needs to fear, and grieve when it is time to grieve, and contentment on a regular basis. At this point, I knew I had made the right call. Was it dark? Yes, very. Did they threaten to drown me? You best believe. But I was present enough to know that these things were things that shaped me, but not what I lived by anymore. But I will have clear pictures of them and then leave with the contentment that I lived to tell the stories, or at least some of them. I will be content to encourage someone listening today, or years to come, that the voices might rage, but you are the storm. Hear how she puts it herself.
You are not the pain. You are not your circumstances. You are not whatever temporary moment you find yourself in. You are that person on the inside. And the journey of your life is finding the courage to be them. If I could get everyone in the world to believe just one thing, it's that there are things out there so good you wouldn't know to ask for them. And you have no idea. You really have no idea how good it can get and how good it can be, except you do know. And this is why you're uncomfortable. Because it's that inner voice inside saying, I was meant for more than this. There is more than this.
Let that sink in. Like, really, if you need to pause and listen to it again, do so. Let it sink. When I listened to this and read that quote from before, suddenly I understood. Healing does not eliminate sadness or fear or grief. It simply means those experiences no longer get to run the entire conversation. While I cannot promise you that difficult thoughts will never return, because they might, what I can tell you is this. In the last few weeks, it reminded me that the voices may rage, they may become loud, they may even sound convincing, but they're only speaking to me. They are not speaking for me. And maybe that's where healing quietly begins. So, welcome to this new series on personal dialogue. Most of the stories you'll hear over the coming weeks will be mine. I don't know how long we'll the series will be for, but most of the stories you'll hear over the coming weeks will be mine, not because they're universal, but because they are true. Take what serves you, leave what doesn't, and above all else, pay attention to the conversations happening inside your own mind, because they may be shaping your life more than you realize. But before I leave you with some thoughts, or with whatever it is you're taking away from this rant, here's one reflective exercise. Choose one event, old or recent, one memory that still stirs something in you. Doesn't have to be bad, yeah, good or bad. Then I invite you to sit with it and wait for it. Write that event a letter. Write that person, that is you, that was in that event, a letter. You just might be surprised by who answers. So before we go, let's take another deep, cleansing breath. In through your nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Side out. And that's about it for today. And if anything in this episode speaks to you or has spoken to you, please give us a follow and share. Of course, you can find Mindfully with Tumshe on Instagram at Mindfully with Tumshe. And that will give us just a little bit of visibility, and I would truly, really appreciate it. A big thank you to Oluwatobi for being such an absolutely best production pal. Until next time, be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Love your neighbor. Love your country. Above all of this, love God. He is the essence of your being. I am Oluwatomishi Oladapo Kuku. Stay mindful.
This is Mindfully with Tumishe, brought to you by Black Images.